Hey, Team Nation. Welcome back. Another podcast with Lauren Hall and Troy Blankenship, your co-creation nation podcast leaders. Hey, Troy.
Hey, Lauren, and hey, co-creators. We are back at it again. So
Mhm.
excited. I think I say this every time to you, Lauren, but I'm so excited to do this with you. So excited to get this information out and reframe hypnosis. Since November, this has been, kind of our baby and kind of our dream to get this thing out to the world and the information out to the world. So I really couldn't be happier. I'm really super excited about everything that we've been doing and everything that we have yet to do moving forward. So how are you?
Yes. Oh, I love talking about hypnosis. It's so fascinating. I mean, it's not only demystifying it, but I really enjoy understanding more and more about the science because any hypnotist is going to explain what the brain is doing and how you can interact with the brain in a different way based on their understanding of it and their experience. I always find it fascinating how within this small industry that we're both in, that there's, I guess, controversies. You know, not all hypnotists believe or think the same things. And I don't mean controversy, like there's a debate. I mean, maybe for some people it is, but it's just a different interpretation. So that's why I truly love this with you, Troy, because we're two hypnotists passionate about it, and we get to interpret to each other what it is that we believe that we're doing or not doing for people, which is we're not having any sort of dependency. They don't need us to be hypnotized. They're already hypnotized, right? We just study this and bring it to them so that they can use hypnosis, which is already happening in their brain, to their own self benefit, just like the two of us do personally and with the hundreds of people, I don't know, that we've helped. I was going to say thousands, but then it's like, you know, thousands and tens of thousands. I mean, who knows who's out there listening to our audios or being supported by other sort of, YouTube videos and things that we're making.
Well, exactly. I mean, we could have helped, many more people than we ever realized. I mean, maybe they came to your website, for example, Lauren, and they saw something that resonated with them and they went to do their own research. They never reached out or contacted you, but maybe it took them down a different path or took them down a different journey and they were able to, figure out a solution for themselves. And if that's the case, if someone comes to my website, for example, and finds that information or finds that knowledge and gets on a better path for themselves and I never know about it, I'm happy with that because, we're here to change the world, whether it's working individually with a client or working in groups or, if we write a book or, if we have a hypnosis school or whatever it might be, right? It's just a matter of helping people one person at a time because I really feel like the world needs us right now, with the change work that we're able to provide for people. And I think that's a really special thing.
Well, when you see what hypnosis can do, you definitely feel the calling of like, wow, I am out there helping people. And I don't need to know who's being helped by what I'm doing. I mean, my clients one on one, of course, that's obvious. But we're talking about people finding us later through the internet spheres. Just that's amazing. I will hope that that's happening. I don't need to be credited, and I know your humility in that of no need to be honored as the hero. It's just it's so exciting to to remember that not all people know these things that we know. Like sometimes I forget and I just assume, oh, everybody knows that they're in control of their reality, that they can shift to their emotional state, the true mental chemistry of their inner brain's pharmacy like that. But not everybody knows it. And so when we tell people about it and they listen and they're wanting information like this because they haven't found it elsewhere, like that really is exciting.
Yeah, yeah, we're a little jaded. I feel like, with the clients that we see on a daily basis and the change work that happens in front of our eyes and the lives that we see transformed. Yeah, we're a little jaded with that, but it's a good thing. It's kind of like somebody comes in and they do hypnosis and they don't see a change. That's when, for me at least, that's when I'm just like, well, wait, what's going on here?
Mm.
I mean, let's do this a different way. Let's approach this in a different manner. Because look, I mean, we could have 20 people come. I mean, Lauren, you could have 20 people come to you, and the way that you go about helping each of those 20 people is going to be 20 different ways, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you're still trying to get to the end result, which is, helping your individual, helping your client move past all this, and things like this, and making sure it's behind them. But the way that you go about it is different. And when and I think we were just talking about this the other day, I think, or we might have been off camera talking about it, saying, people don't really, at least for me, in my opinion, right? They don't really, they're coming to either you or me or another practitioner, and, they have an issue, they have a challenge that they want to get past, right? I think for most people, they don't really care what the process involves, right? Like no one's come to me and said, "Hey, what's your certification or what's going to happen?" Right? Because I think Hollywood and TV and things like that take care of it. When somebody comes and I think you do this too, right? You offer a consultation
Oh yeah.
before, yeah, yeah. So and I do as well. So when somebody comes in, right, it's for that initial consultation, even before we get to the change work in the first session, it's all right, we need to reframe this idea of what hypnosis is. We need to break down the process of what you can expect to see and achieve and what the potential is for you moving forward in this process. And understanding, how this is going to be moving forward and what the goals are going to be and what the expectations are going to be moving forward. And once people can start to wrap their head around that and understand and have that conscious buy-in, it makes the process, at least in my opinion, it makes the process a little bit easier for someone to get behind and understand moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Some people are going to want to know the play by play. They want the information up front. I had a woman once that I was going through that process, and I think she said something almost literal to, "I don't care. I don't really need to know. Like, let's just get it on with." But
Yeah.
so I did turn the track as far as what we were talking about, but in that consultation, whether you're doing that in person or virtual, or it's a part of the session or it's a part of the pre-session, it's so much subtlety as far as priming the subconscious and getting the conscious filter, the one that's always been making these assumptions, out of the way, just out of the way enough so that the perspective can shift. And that's what's so interesting about hypnosis. And I love what you said, Troy, about 20 different people have 20 different styles. Someone told me now there's 9 billion people on the planet. I guess we could say 9 billion different hypnosis techniques, because it's all individualized to that unique moment of time. So then that number is it's gonna be a bigger number than I would even know how to say. So it's just shifting the inner functions of the mind, which to me is such a paradox. Like, how does the mind work within itself intentionally? Like, the eyes can't see themselves unless you use a tool like a mirror. So I think about hypnosis as being a concept for a tool. So I really want to talk about your perspective, Troy, and then my perspective, because I would think all hypnotists come to understand hypnosis a little bit differently. But how do you understand hypnosis as making the change?
Well, I always put myself in the position where, I'm just the teacher, I'm just the educator, right? I mean, that's that I'm the facilitator of this. So when somebody comes in, I let the individual know, it's not where you are now that matters. It's what you do next that matters most. It's how you feel next, which is important. It's what you want to be like moving forward. That's so crucial. So I let the individual know that it's up to them. I mean, they're the ones that are creating this change. They're the ones that are making this happen for themselves, right? So when they come in for a session, it's more like, we're going to do this work. We're going to teach you how to do this. So when you go back into your life, you know exactly what to do. So my perspective is, having someone understand their own true personal power, having somebody understand their own empowerment. Because the last thing I want is someone to feel really great in a session with me, and then they walk back into their life and everything falls apart. That's not true empowerment, right? They're relying on something else, whether it's me or something else, right? And I don't want that. I want them to rely on themselves, because that's what true power is all about. That's my perspective. That's the overarching concept that I try to instill in my clients and in my practice, because it really is about them. It's about them, and it's about their change. It's about what they want to change today. And I always say too, it's about, this is a program, this is a habit. I always tell people this. I say, have you ever like gone by, whether you've driven by or walked by a building with, that has that scaffolding in the front, maybe they're repairing something on the front of the building or whatever. It's like You look at that scaffolding, and this is exactly what's going on in your brain, right? You have this neural scaffolding. You have this neural network that's created this habit, that's created this program or this pattern that's just not serving you very well. And what we do is we create more neural flexibility. We light up the relevant neural network. We create this neuroplasticity, which again is just your brain's natural ability to wire and rewire itself for better organization. And then we tear down that old pattern. So we tear down that old scaffolding and we build up new scaffolding. We build this new habit. We create this neural flexibility.
Yes.
And after a session or two, people understand, hey, I'm starting to see some experience. I'm starting to see some change. I'm starting to see some results. And once we get this momentum, then we can move forward because we can build on that momentum going into the second session. And we can take that momentum from the second session and build on the third and so forth. So it's really about getting the momentum and understanding that nobody, because once someone sees the experience and once someone has these results, nobody can ever take that away from that person. No. And that's what's so great about it, because now they know exactly how to change their emotional state. Now they understand that they're in the driver's seat and their brain is under their control, not the other way around.
It's just like what we were talking about, like having people be empowered with information. And I love what you're talking about, that hope coaching, motivation, encouragement that yes, you can be in control of your brain, because yes, you are already in control. No one else is in control of it. This tangible analogy of the scaffolding is, I think, the perfect imagery for what's going on with the neural network. Because that's when I try to explain, I guess, the anatomy or physiology of how hypnosis, which is, words, gestures, expectation, it feels kind of like, your imagination, but it's different than just positive thinking. It's a participation in real time to a story that your subconscious can interact with. And that really changes the physical constructs of what your brain is holding on as truth and reality, and fact. Because there's a lot of interesting shows out now on Netflix and probably, YouTube everywhere about the mind, the mind explained, memories, how thoughts are contagious, right? Feelings are contagious, that sort of group think. So, really the thoughts and beliefs that you have might not even be yours. And you're likely so busy with your day to day living that you don't get to check in regularly to assess and organize those thoughts to say, do these thoughts serve me, or are they holding me back from what I really want, which are the goals? And so a lot of people put a lot of effort into their goals. And I work with a lot of people where I'm using this concept of, I know you feel like if you could just push harder, you would get what you want, but you've had that feeling your whole life and you haven't been able to allow yourself right here in the now present moment to experience all that you have, because you're waiting for later. To the subconscious, later is never going to be here. If your goal is at the later time, it's really invisible and you're just suffering and stress. So I have this theory that although we are always doing our own hypnosis, and self-hypnosis is a practice that, I know both of us recommend to our clients and use ourselves, when the brain feels observed. So think about that scaffolding. It's sort of like you're asking the brain to tear down an old scaffolding because it's just out of date. Maybe it was the highest technology at its time, but now it's no longer working for what you need, because you need something that's going to have 8 floors, right? Mm-hmm. So for the brain to take the effort to tear down that scaffolding, it wants an observer. The neuro network wants this sort of outside support and accountability. And that's where I believe, hypnotists come in. Hypnosis is something in real time that happens. What do you think on that?
Well, I think that people are already doing their own form of hypnosis. They just don't realize that they're doing it. Mm-hmm. For me, my market is, anxiety, stress, fear, worry, uncertainty, self-doubt, things like this. Mm-hmm. And if somebody already has, one or multiple of these things, they already have a very powerful brain. Maybe they don't realize that, but they do, and sometimes I point this out to somebody, and on the initial consultation, I say, has anyone ever told you that having anxiety is a skill? And unequivocally, I've never had someone say, oh yeah, by the way, someone has told me that. Everyone says no. And I say, well, let's look at this on paper. Because the fact that you've had anxiety for 10 years and you can change your emotional state at the drop of a hat. And you can do it every single day, and even create physical symptoms of shaking and you can't breathe or sweating or whatever it is, right? And you've been doing this month after month after month, day after day after day. If you look at that on paper, that's a skill. That means you have a very powerful brain. Now, granted, it's a skill that you'd rather not have. And I understand that and I get that. But understand it's a skill. And if your brain can take you back down this road time and time and time again, it can also take you down a different road that is more self-serving and more constructive and more beneficial. So if you were like an actress in Hollywood, you'd be like, or an actor in Hollywood, you'd be like a multi-millionaire, because that's how they make their money over there. Mm-hmm. They make their money by changing their emotional state at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. So they're aware now that it's something they're doing without ever being educated. No one's teaching anybody how to be stressed. I mean, maybe they pick it up.
They've taught themselves, but in my opinion, they don't realize that they've done that. It's not a conscious awareness, but they have taught themselves a habit, because in the change work that I do, anxiety, fear, stress, they're habits. Mm-hmm. It's a pattern. It's a program that your brain has learned over time. And I just had this conversation with someone the other day, right? If someone feels anxiety, conscious about it or not, and most people are not, but they're putting themselves into a box. They're pushing themselves into a corner. So the next time they need to give a presentation, their brain remembers this moment that, oh yeah, it's perfectly fine if we cancel this. Mm-hmm. Same thing as, with driving anxiety. Oh, I just won't go on highways. But the brain will generalize this change because, again, it's learning these habits. It's learning these programs. And before you know it, you can't even get in the car anymore, because your brain feels like it's protecting you when really it's restricting you. It's limiting your options.
Yeah.
Right. So the brain can generalize change for the good or for the bad. Brain doesn't care. Your brain is non-judgmental. You care. You care if this affects your life. You care if you can't get in the car. You care if you can't get up there and give a presentation to further your brand, or, to do a good job at work or whatever it is. But it's one of these things where the brain just thinks that it's protecting you. And it feels like it's perfectly acceptable behavior because you've done it for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I guess it's different for me I work with people for a vast variety of goals. I haven't really honed in on a specialty. It's always different the way the session evolves. It just happens in real time. It's now become so much more intuitive, whereas before, in the beginning of my career, I would have like a pre-take session, and then we would talk, and then I would come back later with something custom that I put together. But I guess I did that so many times that now I can do that off the cusp. And so it feels really organic. And I know what you're doing with that conscious reframing, right? And the habit interrupt, right? Bring the awareness to the habit, interrupt the habit, and then overlay the habit with the solution state. It's like, let's get the brain to be triggered to have this calm or confident state, your goal state. I guess I'm not doing ego strengthening except for in guided imagery. So I like the way that you do that with people. I guess I'm doing more empathy with people at the conscious state, but I'm not empathizing at a point that's putting them stuck. I would call it hope coaching. I just love, that take on it, right? It's that sense of this is possible and your brain has been wanting this, but I kind of want them to feel relief. Like they don't have to have any effort of it, because, most people come to me and they're kind of exhausted. They're like, oh, I've tried this before,
Well, yeah, I get that too. Many people come to me and they say, look, you're like my last option here because I've tried X, Y, Z and all the others. And I just don't understand, where I can turn to next. And I get that because, once upon a time, I also had anxiety myself, and nobody told me, no doctor told me, no therapist told me that hypnosis was an option. I had to go do my own research and figure it out on my own. And,
Right.
this was something that I have been dealing with for years. Nobody told me this. And now look where it's got me. It got me on a podcast as a co-creator with you, Lauren Hall. So, it's kind of funny how things worked out. And, I kind of look back at it and it's just like, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I mean, it's one of these things where it's like, sometimes we peter along in life until something like this, a challenge or an issue pops up. And now we have to figure out how to deal with it. And we come out, and if we deal with it, right, and we're smart about it, we come out the other side and we're so much better for it, because now we realize how strong we are as an individual. And again, it gets back to the empowerment. It gets back to understanding your true power moving forward in life. So, I get a full range of people coming to me, and they've had, they're just at their wit's end. They don't understand what to do next. They don't know where to turn. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's interesting that you mentioned ego strengthening, because in my opinion, the ego strengthening is something like, I can equate that with the momentum that I was talking about before, right? It's like they're creating and having these own successes, right? This is where, in my opinion, that's where the ego comes in. That's the momentum that we're trying to create. And it's not ego in a bad sense, right? Or, oh, look what I did sense. It's like, yes, I understand this now. Yes, I'm seeing success. I feel a way, if I'm able to manage to feel a way that I don't want to feel in an emotional state, I know exactly what to do. I have the tools, and I have the techniques, and I have the strategies available to me to knock down these feelings so I can feel the way I want to feel. So again, you have these moments over and over and over. This is where that confidence comes in, right? That's it's a self-perpetuating ego, right? Where someone says, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Yeah, I've had, 5 different experiences now where I've been able to, knock down an emotional state that I don't want to feel. And I'm teaching my brain every single time how I want to feel moving forward. How do I need to be moving forward?
Right. And I love that you tagged ego and reminding people we don't mean ego as what is normally vilified. I guess ego strengthening is some insider jargon, but it just means remembering you are one of 9 billion. You are unique, and no one could be you. And that means that the things that you are going through are validated, and you have talents to accomplish whatever's important for you specifically in life. Like your brain has come into existing at a whole state because it's a system that functions. It has to function in a whole way with whatever unique uniquity. Could that be a word? With
Sure.
whatever is you. What I think is interesting, Troy. So we are doing. We of course we're accomplishing the same thing, and we're coming at it in the same way. But I'm just hearing, what I do differently, maybe. I mean, we'll see. You'll have to come in for one of my sessions because I've worked with you to see. Your process is amazing. I love it. So I'm doing so much more subconscious. And I'm not saying that what I'm doing is different in yours and you need to do my way. I'm just thinking that I come at a permissive angle as far as uh, just letting them feel like, you know what, you don't have to do anything else right now. I'm going to take care of this. You're here. Like, let's clean it together. And then your brain for you, so I must kind of take them as separate from their brain. Like your brain for you is now just going to do this thing because we've held this awareness on it to do it, almost like the brain is their inner child. And we've encouraged this inner child, yes, you can. And the stuff in the past, who cares? You're forgiven, right? You have tools now and you don't have to be conscious of those tools. But that's just because this is what I understand about the brain is that it's taken off this momentum all on its own and it's eager to please. So it's going to learn, it learned those habits like you were talking about as a way for coping. It wasn't trying to punish you. It feels like punishment probably if you're somebody stuck in anxiety, but the brain was doing the best that it could. And it can be a really instant reset for the brain to now know these things and for you to do these little everyday habits, these rituals, these focusing techniques.
Yeah. People need to understand that it's not them. It's certainly not their fault. It's just their brain that has learned something.
Yes.
So when somebody comes in, we unlearn that.
Mm, perfect. Yeah, and we're talking about the brain and the many layers, and I guess I'm coming from the feminine angle of permissive and soft, and you've got a really great, direct and clear drive of here you are now, here's where you deserve to be because you were, an awesome person, and here's where you're going to take yourself because I'm teaching you this very easy technique. I mean, what do you think? Am I saying that right?
Like we talked about here in the beginning. I mean, everyone has their own style. Doesn't mean that one style is better than the other, in my opinion. It just matters that we come at it at a different angle. All the client really cares about is getting the result. All the client cares about is putting this behind them. All the client cares about is living their life in a way that they deserve, right? Moving forward with a better quality of life. I mean, that's really all the client really cares about. They don't care about how they go about it. I mean, I've had so many conversations with people that have said such wacky things to me. They're so over anxiety. They don't want to live another second with it. I mean, I've had people say, if you tell me to go, stand on my head, at an intersection and spit out purple jelly beans, I will go do exactly that if that means that I'm going to get better.
Yeah.
And normally, again, we're trying to reframe this. We're trying to change this. In our opinion, hypnosis should be a viable option, just like anything else. But right now, I mean, people come to me and they just say, "Hey, I mean, you're kind of my last resort here." I've exhausted all of these other traditional methods and models, and nothing has seemed to take. Nothing has seemed to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we approach it in a different way.
I mean, we're getting results, you know? I think we
I
both,
mean, and that's how somebody can be, have anxiety. And I'm just talking about my market now, but that's how somebody can have anxiety for 15 years, and we can get it within 3 sessions.
yeah.
Typical client will see a transformational change somewhere between 3 to 5 sessions. I've had it in less. I've had it in more, but that's the typical clientele that I see in my practice. And again, regardless of how long they've had it. So that really proves to me that people can really understand and get behind. And again, like I said, have that conscious buy-in to move forward and understand their own true personal power.
Yes. Well
Because
said.
it really is about them. It's not about me. It's not even about the hypnosis. It's about them realizing that they can change their emotional state. And there will be plenty of people going to sleep tonight. This is what keeps me going. And I think I just said this yesterday. But what keeps me going, Lauren, is that there's going to be millions of people going to sleep tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and they will cry themselves to sleep because they have anxiety and they have fear and panic and stress, and they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They don't know how to get out from under it.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, we have, a mission that we're working tirelessly towards to just inform people that there are options. There's no negative side effects with hypnosis. It's not a placebo. You don't have a brain that can't be hypnotized. It already is hypnotized. Whether or not you experience hypnosis with your professional, it depends on the professional. And are you following instructions? Because you can't be hypnotized against your will, right? It's not mind control like Hollywood has made it sound. It's making me think, Troy. I think our perspectives and where they're different. Do you feel like we have different perspectives on hypnosis, on how it makes the change?
I think that we have different processes, but I think the end result is still the same, which is to make the client feel better, which is to empower the client. So I think the end result, it's like, how we get there might be a little bit different, but we're still after the same end result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my mind, because we're hypnotists, so my mind always is going to make pictures, and my picture is that you come in right at the top of the scalp and get down into the center of the brain, and I'm coming in out because I'm always taking it back to the heart. I don't know if I've talked about that, but the heart brain. So I'm coming in right at the heart. So it's like a little stealth, illogical way, but we're definitely both getting to that same end spot, which is wherever that scaffolding that was janky that needs to be redone. And for anybody that we're working with, that we're doing that for, it is going to feel exciting, energizing, but at the same time, sort of refreshing. You just feel renewed. I mean, people start sleeping better after hypnosis. I mean, don't you find, like, even if that's not their goal, they're just getting better sleep?
Well, I can say that, yeah. So for the techniques that I teach in my practice, right? I mean, they can be used universally across the board. So just because somebody comes in for anxiety doesn't necessarily mean that the techniques that I teach and that they do to, knock down that anxiety is only going to be used for that anxiety. I mean, it can be used for any unwanted emotional state that they don't want to feel. I mean, they can even take the same techniques to knock down cravings. If they don't want to eat late at night, for example, or if they have, if they want to stop smoking, right? Or if they want to stop, drinking or whatever it might be, right? I mean, they can use these same techniques to knock down cravings. It's a little bit different in terms of, a weight loss session or a smoking cessation session as it is and how it relates to anxiety. But there are themes and there are techniques that you can carry over. And again, this gets back to I should just call my practice the empowerment practice, because I mean, that's really what it comes back for me, right? I mean, that is what is most important to me, is having somebody come in and, hearing them speak about their issue right from the first go, right from that first consultation call, and then hearing that voice and seeing them transform and having all these, great results over just a few short sessions within a couple of short weeks. And it's a complete transformation of how somebody can view themselves. And again, it's the process of having somebody realize, having enough faith in themselves, believing in themselves enough to take those first couple of steps into their own true empowerment. And once they do that, I mean, look, I mean, the sky's the limit, because now they understand that they can do pretty much anything that they want. Because once you understand that you can control your emotional state, I mean, what better gift is there than this, to teach your brain this technique and this habit moving forward? In my opinion, there really isn't a better gift, because you can put yourself in the driver's seat for life.
Right. Yeah. It's the everyday tools and putting those into practice. And I think coming into the experience of having a person support you to reset, to have the conscious understanding, but to feel presently the emotional state, which is relief and security and optimism. I mean, we could describe it in so many different words, but everybody can connect to what that feeling state is. And if
Yeah, it's really whatever the client says that they want. That's really what it comes down to. So, I mean, I've had everything from happy to excited to indifferent to empowered to liberating,
Mhm.
so it really comes down to what they want. Confident,
Some people
relief,
feel it, you know,
focus,
they've
so.
had it for so long. And so for them, I'll use some sense of, well, somebody somewhere must have it, right? Because you believe it exists. And if they can have it, but you feel like you're not having it, well, let's talk about that. I mean, basically, separate the problem state from no longer being something you identify as being, and just something you identify maybe as having and then as doing, right? And you can just continue to stair step and detachment so that it just fades away. And then this solution state is just here. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, yeah, the solution state, it just comes in like, bam. I was like, that's not the way I would say it. I think it's more like a, but that's where, people are just different practitioners, different clients, different needs, always the same result. Hypnosis, it works. I mean, it never doesn't work. Yeah. I think we've explained it, how we understand it. I hope we'll need some feedback now as to if anybody's out there getting it with what we're talking about, or if they're just trying to picture like little people on a scaffolding inside their brain and wanting some help. You guys can go get some hypnosis audios from us on hypnosisinaction.com and check out more there.
All right, and they can also drop us a comment, or if they would like us to discuss something in the future, on a future podcast, they can head over to Facebook, Co-Creation Nation, and drop us a line and let us know what are your thoughts on this. How do you think it goes down in the brain? Because we'd like to know. We would like to know what your take is on true change work as to how it relates to any of these topics. So 2 places, like Lauren said, right? Facebook is one. You can also head over to our website, hypnosisinaction.com, and get some cool audios that we have over there and join the conversation and join our community as co-creators. So Lauren, I appreciate you. I appreciate the audience. Everyone's listening to us. We will see you all next time.
Well, we won't see you, but you guys will hear us, and we'll bring other hypnotists on and ask them about their perspectives on how hypnosis works. I definitely want to hear people giving some feedback. Troy, I'll see you on the flip side.
On the flip side, Lauren, we'll see you there.